You think the problem with Republicans in Washington is that they haven't cut enough deals with the Democrats. They haven't given in enough to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Harry Reid. Then maybe Donald Trump's your guy.
All right, Trey Harden, as I'm saying here, you've been the voice of reason, saying that Donald Trump was going to come back down to earth and the other candidates were going to overtake him. Do you still feel that way 1 week from the Iowa caucus?
Well, I'm still not willing. I'm still not willing to give it to Trump yet, because until I see an actual turnout on an election day, especially in a process such as Iowa, where voters don't necessarily vote with emotion. They take their vote very seriously. They have to show up at a place for 2 hours at a specific time of day in a specific location. Until I see that Trump supporters actually participate in that and represent what these polls have been saying, I'm not willing to give it to him. I do think the phenomenon is real, and I do think the reason why he's pulling away in the polls from Ted Cruz is simply because Ted Cruz has a voting record. I think that all the other candidates are very qualified guys, but they've been in office, and I think that is a huge noose around their neck. I mean, I think it's a weight on their shoulders that Trump doesn't have to deal with, and he's free of that, and I think it's reflected in a lot of these polls. I think a lot of Republicans, not just conservatives, are supportive of Trump, supportive of the idea of Trump, because he represents their anger, their frustration, and he's kind of their front guy for breaking down political correctness, which is they're scared to do in their own communities because they're worried about being sued or being, painted as a bad person. But by clinging on to him, they feel like that they're doing it to a certain degree.
So there's a story in the New York Times this morning, Trey Harden, where it says that these super PACs are spending up to $35 million bashing everybody but Trump and Cruz. Jeb to Rubio, Rubio to Christie, Christie to Bush, and so on and so forth. With the idea being that they're destroying each other, waiting for the Trump world to implode so they can sort of be the winner waiting for all this support. But the other argument says they're leaving Trump and Cruz alone with a path to sort of no one's criticizing him.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's interesting political strategy. There's no question that's happening, and that these campaigns are being advised by the consultants to do that, to be ready for that, that where there's no chair, make sure you have a chair in the in that merry-go-round game, and he it's. I just don't think that's going to end up working. I mean, I think that you got to get out there and make sure that your own brand is positioned so that you can at least have some success in one of these states. But right now, the momentum is so strong, I think, for Trump that it will, again, if he does do well in Iowa, a place where it is a very unique process for voting, then I definitely think it's going to change the minds of probably myself and a lot of others that really have been questioning, if his loyalty or the support that he has translates actually into votes.
But you have the National Review, which is a tried and true conservative, no questions asked publication. What happens if Trump becomes the nominee? Are these Republicans going to coalesce around him, or are they going to break off and say, I just can't do it?
Well, you got to remember, too, I think that I think that they will, but you bring up a good point, because you could look at it on the flip side that, did McCain and Romney, did they suffer from not having the participation or the engagement of conservative voters in the general election turn out for them and work for them, because they weren't happy that those voters weren't happy that they were the nominee. I mean, you're exactly right. That plays a role in it. I would argue that Hillary Clinton faces the same challenge. I mean, she, in order to win a general election, knows that she these days has to have the Obama coalition that he built and created, the African American vote, the women vote. I'm not convinced she's even close to locking up either one of those, or at least getting them to participate. So yes, I think that it's problematic for Trump if he becomes the nominee. But at the same time, too, I think that Trump doesn't represent one angle of the party. I think that there may be some D.C. establishment, whatever that word means anymore, people that aren't happy that this guy is breaking through. But I think in terms of voters, he represents a wide spectrum of Republican voters, not just conservatives, but even the ones that are more kind of considered establishment or realistic, that are just fed up with the kind of the senators or House members or whomever type candidates that have these voting records that don't get anything done.
Trey Harden, ABC News political analyst. Thanks for checking in. Have a good week.
You too.